The Perfect Son by Omar Cuellar. My name is Aldous, and the year was 1988. I have always lived in this majestic Georgian mansion in Lewiston, Maine. Its imposing columns, worn down by the passage of time, and its tall windows, coated in ancient dust that filters the light into golden beams, have been my entire world for as long as I can remember. Though, come to think of it, I don't recall when my existence here began. I have simply always been here. I have no memories of parents, nor of a mother who cradled me, or a father who guided me. Those words are foreign to me, like concepts from a language I never learned. The mansion, with its silent grandeur and strange warmth, has been all I ever needed. Fog constantly surrounds the house, thick and dense like an endless veil, blurring the boundary between the overgrown garden and the outside world. I have never seen what lies beyond. I feel neither curiosity nor desire. The mansion is enough. It is safe. It is my home. And when storms lash the sky with violence, thunder rumbling through the foundations, and lightning illuminating the ancient walls with ghostly flashes, I can sleep deeply, as though those violent sounds were lullabies meant only for me. It is on those chaotic nights that I find peace. My days pass through long corridors and vast chambers. The creaking of old floorboards beneath my feet is the only constant, a solitary echo that accompanies my wanderings. Each room holds secrets, clocks stopped decades ago, furniture draped in white sheets that resemble motionless ghosts, and old portraits whose eyes seem to follow me. I never feel alone. Shadows dance in the corners, stretched by the faint glow of candelabras, and sometimes ethereal figures emerge to keep me company. Ghosts, perhaps, but to me they are friends. They play with me, whisper stories in forgotten tongues, and vanish when I no longer need them. In one of the oldest chambers stands an enormous mirror, its golden frame carved with symbols I do not understand, almost like forgotten runes. It is there that I gaze at myself. My reflection never changes. The same blonde hair falling in messy strands across my forehead, the same scattered freckles on my nose, the smooth skin of a youth who appears frozen at 17 or 18. Over time, I have noticed that I do not age. Time here does not carry the same weight. The seasons seem to repeat without logic, and the days dissolve into a static routine. But then something changed. One morning, when I tried to open the door to the greenhouse, I found it locked. Not merely locked, but as though the mansion itself had decided to seal it. The hinges were cold and rigid, as if they had not moved in years. At first I paid it no mind. The house is immense. Dozens of rooms still remain to explore. But days passed, and more doors began to close. One after another, corridors darkened and entrances were blocked. The locks rusted as though they had been sealed forever. Unease grew inside me, a strange new sensation, an uncomfortable prickling in my chest. When even my own bedroom became inaccessible, I was forced to sleep in the main hall. There, beneath high ceilings adorned with cracked frescoes and heavy drapes that blocked what little light there was, the distant echo of storms still comforted me. The sound remained my solace at night, but the mansion no longer felt the same. Something inside it was fading, as though an invisible will was slowly withdrawing. Eventually, every room was closed off except the grand reception hall. There I spent my days, watching the fog press against the windows, wrapping the house in its icy embrace. The ghosts no longer appeared. The shadows seemed to have retreated, leaving an uncomfortable void. The walls felt colder, more distant. The mansion which had always sheltered me now seemed to be pushing me toward abandonment. Boredom turned to desperation. I felt the weight of silence crushing my mind. I could bear it no longer. Despite the overwhelming fear that the idea of leaving inspired in me, I approached the great oak door, the one I had never crossed before. My hand trembled as I turned the handle, which was ice cold to the touch. With a deep creak, the door opened, releasing a breath of cold, damp air that struck my face. The outside world was an abyss of shadows and indecipherable shapes. The fog was even thicker there, enveloping everything in oppressive opacity. I heard whispers, distant footsteps, and invisible creatures moving through the mist. The cold air cut into my skin as I advanced, each step carrying me farther from the only safety I had ever known. Twisted trees rose like claws from the damp ground, and elongated shadows slid between the trunks. Panic engulfed me. I could go no farther. I ran back to the mansion, my eternal refuge. But when I reached it, the great door was closed. I pounded on it, begged, screamed. But the wood remained still, cold, indifferent. The fog swirled around me as though celebrating my misfortune. The mansion no longer wanted me inside. I tried to open it for days, perhaps weeks. My knuckles bled from so much striking. The shadows of the exterior drew closer, whispering things I could not understand, while the mansion watched in implacable silence. In the end, exhausted, I decided to stay in the garden, in front of the closed door. The nights were cruel. The cold seeped into my bones, and the thunder, which had once soothed me, now sounded distant and hollow. I no longer had my ghosts, nor the soft glow of candelabras, nor endless corridors to explore. Only the fog and I remained. My thoughts grew heavy, dark, as though the mist itself were trying to seep into my mind. Weakness gradually overtook me. Hunger, exhaustion, unfamiliar sensations that consumed me little by little. I lay beneath the bare branches of the garden trees, always gazing toward the mansion. I still hoped it would open again, that it would let me back in, but that never happened. Dew covered my skin each morning, while my breath grew weak and faint. In those moments of anguish, I understood something devastating. The mansion had been my mother and my father. It had protected me, fed me, cared for me. All that time I thought it was merely a refuge, but in truth it had been my creator, my everything. And now it had abandoned me, like a mother casting out a child she no longer needs. It was there amid the weed-choked garden that I noticed something strange. The soil, soft and disturbed, rose in an irregular mound. Something inside me urged me to dig. I used my own hands, breaking the damp earth with trembling nails and fingers. I dug furiously, feeling the cold mud between my fingers, until my hands touched something solid and cold. I cleared the soil, and there it was, my own face, lifeless, eyes closed, skin pale. I recoiled in horror, but the need to understand drove me to keep digging. A few feet away, another body, and then another. They were all me, Aldous after Aldous, each with slight differences, one with longer hair, another with scars, another with an expression of profound sadness. Dozens, perhaps hundreds of versions of me, all dead, buried in the garden. Horror gave way to understanding. The mansion had not only created me, it had created me again and again. Each version of Aldous had been rejected, expelled to the garden like failed waste. The mansion was searching for something, its perfect son. I was not that son. I had not been enough, and now I understood why I had been abandoned. I collapsed onto the turned earth and broke into sobs. I cried until my throat was dry and my eyes burned. The weight of failure was unbearable. I was not special. I was just another failed experiment. The mansion had decided that I, too, should remain there, forgotten, like the others. The days passed in a whirlwind of tears and hunger. Weak, starving, and exhausted, I cried until I could cry no more. My strength faded as the fog danced around me. And then, one day, I simply stopped crying. I lay back on the soft earth, surrounded by the dead versions of myself, and closed my eyes. My final thought was simple and painful. I died there, in the garden, under the cold gaze of the mansion, knowing that even in death, I would be just another mistake the house would try to correct, in its eternal attempt to create the perfect Aldous. The mansion remained silent, motionless, indifferent, and somewhere deep within its depths, perhaps it had already begun to form another Aldous, hoping that this time it would finally be the right one.